Okay. Discord. Discord. Full screen. Okay, so we're a burgeoning podcast. Okay, we're still learning the ropes, and that comes with technical difficulties. And for whatever reason, my computer just randomly turned off, and we can't figure out why. It also will randomly turn on. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, you're gonna notice there's a big old cutoff, and it's gonna jump. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm really hoping that you are like, what the heck? Why did that cut off? And then you will proceed to the next part. I'm going to try to edit this into one chunk in CapCut later, and I'll upload it as like a regular video. But we're learning, we're evolving
Um,
together. So, continuing on, we were wrapping up talking about GTA 6. Was there anything else you wanted to say about GTA 6 before I move on?
looks good. Should be fun. Looking forward to playing it.
Excellent. Okay, so I want to quickly talk about Deadpool 3. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. And this is going to contain potential spoilers for Deadpool 3, a movie which is not out yet, but we're going to talk about some set photos. And the set photos have a spoiler which I know Jordan's not going to care about, but you might. So earmuffs for a minute or two, okay? Cool. So on these set photos, they show Deadpool and Wolverine. You know that fight that they were filming before they went on strike?
Yes,
The one where we got to see
probably.
the one where we got to see what the outfit looked like.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, they've gone back to filming again, and we've seen Sabretooth on set, but not X Men Origins Sabretooth, original X Men One Sabretooth.
Oh really?
Yeah, and
Oh damn.
so that's led to speculation that this is going to be, and it's been speculated for a bit, but that this is going to be Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm like,
Interesting.
fuck yes, because I've been pitching for Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe since Deadpool 2. I walked out of Deadpool 2 and I said they should make Deadpool kills the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And everyone called me crazy. Who's crazy now, bitches?
Still you.
I am not crazy because it looks like we're getting Marvel or Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe in some capacity.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. This could be exactly what you're saying. You're still crazy.
I'm so excited. I'm excited for Deadpool 3. It's going to be good.
This could be like you could have written this story. They could have gone like it come from the future, brought it back in past. It's exactly like everything you said it could be, and you're still crazy.
You know,
I know you better than anyone. You're the craziest person I know.
that is true. I'm pretty crazy. But it's gonna be fun. That's interesting. I'm hoping this is an absolute cameo palooza. Like I know people
Oh
like
yeah, I
eye
hope
roll
so.
God cameos, but not me, man. I want every third or fourth scene. Whenever there isn't a cameo, I want to be saying to myself, "Where's the cameos?" Like that's what I
when
want
when
this to be.
when's the next cameo gonna
Right? I
be?
want every scene I want it to end, and then the next one for me to be like, when's the next cameo? Like I just want it to be wall to wall. Because I've seen
And
other set photos, like the Fantastic Car has shown up in set photos. Like it's gonna be
and
good.
references, and I want him to look at the camera and be meta.
Oh yeah,
I want everything. I want full Deadpool.
full Deadpool. And I'm very stoked. But just the fact that I might be right, like it's exactly what I want. It's like me and Ryan
I
Reynolds are
mean,
the exact same kind of fan, and I'm okay
I
with
mean,
that.
I'm just excited to have Hugh Jackman and um, the two, Wolverine and Deadpool, actual Wolverine and Deadpool together.
My thing was when they were like when they first put out that picture of the costume, and people had the audacity to complain that it had sleeves, and then and it's like shut up, shut the fuck up, don't ruin this for me, you stupid. You, you know
It
the
looks
closest thing.
fantastic.
You know the closest thing we got to the stupid costume was in a deleted scene. You shut up. Like it was like, and then the other funny part was that people being like, he has skin cancer. He needs to cover up. Like no, just no. Please stop providing excuses for why he's wearing sleeves. He's just wearing sleeves. It's okay. It's close enough.
Looks good to me. I mean, it's yellow. It probably has the pointy black ears. I'm all the boxes are checked for me. It needs to come out.
It needs to come next year, and it's apparently the only Marvel movie coming out next year, which is good. That's smart. No more Disney Plus
Nice,
shows either.
nice.
No, I'm good. I don't need to see Echo. I'm probably not gonna watch Echo. I still haven't watched Ahsoka. Can't bring
What
myself to do that.
what's Echo?
Echo's that chick from Hawkeye who did the deaf chick,
Nobody
the
cares.
deaf chick from Echo that we both were like, really? I will say, like, if it were a Daredevil show, it looks interesting, but I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't look interesting. You can make it as R-rated as you want. I'm like, I like Vincent D'Onofrio
See,
as Kingpin. That's the only reason why I'm willing to give it a chance. But I get the feeling
see,
there's going to be other opportunities to see him.
I hear you talking about this, and all I think is the scene from Sonic the Hedgehog movie with Jim Carrey, where it's like, "Who are you again? Nobody cares.
Well,
I'm in charge."
it was funny because when that trailer came out, all the people who are like the MCU is in shambles are all like, no, the MCU is not in shambles. Look at this thing; it's gonna be R-rated and bloody, and it's like I don't need that. I mean, as much as I liked Daredevil, it was just one of the, I don't need this from the MCU. I don't want this from the MCU. Like that's not what the MCU is here for. It's here to be stupid and silly and cartoony. Like it doesn't need to be like yeah, maybe we can have self-serious projects, but like don't have them be connected to anything. Like
Nah,
just have them be like
they can
what?
be.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say they can. You can. The thing my one issue with the modern MCU, and this is something that DC kind of had an issue with for a while there too, is they've forgotten that you can have your like self stories, like not connected,
Yeah,
don't need to be MCU. You can just have it be a Marvel product that exists in its own thing. It's fine.
yeah.
It doesn't need to be part of this gigantic
Or
multiverse you're creating.
not everything needs to set up the next thing is the thing I would say. So it's like
No.
you can the thing
Yeah.
I like about the original Daredevil shows, everyone's arguing how canon they are. They take place in the MCU. Like the Daredevil show, the entire plot of the first season of the Daredevil show is that it's a real estate scam based off of the Avengers movie. So there's a bunch of destroyed real estate, and the mobsters and shit are buying up the real estate to create a real estate scam. Like, and then that's connect. So it's like, yeah, these things can exist in the universe, and the consequences of the events in the universe can have consequences, but it doesn't have to connect to this overall story every single time. Like,
Yeah.
like you can have a and Rick and Morty is sort of learning this lesson, and you're watching Supernatural. When you get to season 15 of Supernatural, is when they finally learn this lesson. You can have individualized stories that still reference the overall narrative, but don't have to directly move it forward, right? Like you can do that. These
Yeah.
things are possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Not everything needs to be gigantic. Sometimes you can just have a small story.
Exactly, exactly. So, you have anything else to say about Deadpool 3, Jordan, before we move on?
I mean, I'm always down for a good Deadpool story.
I look, fun. It's fun. It's good. I'm interested if they're ever going to introduce the concept of the speech bubbles into the movies. I am
That'd be
curious
fun.
about that. Let's be fair. They wrote out the speech bubbles out of the comic like a while ago because they realized it was too hard to write a serious story with him when they did that. But I still enjoy maybe a reference to it or
Well, I
something
mean,
to give
especially
him an
if this
inner
isn't
dialogue.
necessarily, especially if this is not necessarily a serious story. If this is supposed to be a sillier one, then that's kind of the perfect time to do it.
It's not though. That's according to sources, not my sources, but according to some sources, it's supposed to be like integral, like hinges everything from the future. It sets up everything in the future. It all hinges on Deadpool 3, and everyone's like Deadpool 3. I've seen a lot of people. I don't think this is the case, but I've seen a lot of people who are getting nervous that it's going to be another Ant-Man 3 scenario where it's like this is not the movie for this stuff. I think it is. I'm excited for it. I'm just saying I've heard that and I understand why people would say that.
Fair enough.
So with that, let's move on to the Game Awards, which ultimately the awards themselves. As someone pointed out, why are they called the Game Awards? Like, this not. Baldur's Gate won Game of the Year, surprising no one. All the idiot Spider-Man 2 fans who are pretending like this is a surprise, go play Baldur's Gate 3 is what I would say to you. Because I love
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, but if you have anything negative to say about Baldur's Gate 3 that isn't fair complaints about some of the hilarious bugs in that game, then you've not played it. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say it's a perfect game. I made a video about that. If you're here from TikTok, I made a video about that, where I said I have it's not a perfect game. There's some
No,
hilarious fucking glitches. I mean, I shared some of them
and
on TikTok. They were
and
funny.
and some and some very frustrating bugs.
Yeah, game breaking bugs. Like I mean, you
Yeah.
experienced a couple game breaking bugs.
I absolutely did. I had to change my one in my one playthrough. I had to change which direction I was going to go because I couldn't go the direction I wanted to go
Didn't
because there was a game breaking bug.
did they eventually patch it out? Do you know?
I have no idea.
I'm
I,
curious.
I I'm not sure.
They've done a lot of really good patching out, and I'm like, that doesn't.
I would hope, considering that there was a Reddit thread with at one point at least 100 comments on it. I would hope that they have since patched that problem out,
I'm
but I
so tired of busted ass fucking games coming out that need to be patched in later patches. This never happened when we back in my day. This never happened, and it's very annoying that it keeps happening.
what's frustrating about the Baldur's Gate 3's bugs is a good number of those bugs didn't exist on the PC version.
Yeah,
They happened when it came to when they ported it to the console. So I mean, I already had to wait. Well, I think it was a couple months or something,
something like that.
between when the original Baldur's Gate came out and when I got my version. That's plenty of time for you to go through with playtesters. Remember playtesters? Remember when playtesters tested games and made sure that games functioned properly?
Yep.
I don't know if we've stopped using them or if they just have shitty ones now, but maybe you need to be hiring better ones so you can catch some of those because don't get me wrong, there's certain ones which I get. There's certain small bugs which I understand how they could
Yeah, miss
miss,
QA. Yeah.
but that the one that I'm talking about is a major one which continues a major story quest, and I don't know how it got missed. I don't know how it got missed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Legitimately, it
I'm with
it
you.
baffles my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of times in video games now where I'm like, once you start to develop a knowledge in terms of behind the scenes stuff of how sausage gets made for certain things, you're like, yeah, how did this miss QA? Once you know QA exists in video games, you're like, how did this how did a person play this and be like, this is fun, this is acceptable? Like, there's a lot of times in gaming that happens for me now.
I mean, in terms of this bug specifically, how did someone not play through the game, get to that point, and be like, "Hey, I can't continue this storyline this way."
Yeah,
Uh,
unless when they were QA testing it, they didn't go down that path. But like you would think, I can't
no,
imagine QA
no,
testing
no,
this game.
no. The thing is there's dozens of QA testers. There's
Yeah, that's
not
fair.
one QA testers. There's not one QA tester who's playing through the game once. You have at least 12. No one took that route. No one out of our yeah.
Like you would think, I can't.
Well, I hear myself.
We have chats. We have chats. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
we have
live.
chats.
That's live. Yeah, it's Jake. Jake is saying, yeah, he's telling me that that's live TV. Yeah, it is live TV. Yeah. Did I enjoy Once Upon? I haven't seen Once Upon a. Did you? Have you seen Once Upon a Deadpool?
Once Upon a Deadpool is that one of the comics?
No, if I'm not mistaken, Once Upon a Deadpool is the PG version of Deadpool 2, I think, where it's basically they've re-edited it into a PG movie, and it's got a framing device where um it's very,
Oh, he's
very
in bed.
yeah,
Person's in bed and he's reading to them.
yeah, Fred Savage. He's reading to Fred Savage in bed. Yeah.
I've seen clips of that on TikTok.
Yeah, I have too. I've seen the occasional. I mean, it's funny. Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. It's always funny. I can't believe the fact that they never managed to get that animated series off the ground is a real travesty. Because like I'm positive they could get him in a voice acting booth and just get him to do Deadpool for like 8 hours a day.
Oh, absolutely. He
Yeah,
is Deadpool.
yeah, PG-13 version of Deadpool too. Yeah, no, I just didn't. Ultimately I didn't see the point, and I could YouTube the stuff that was new. So I didn't. I
Yeah,
it kind of it kind of um takes the teeth out of Deadpool for me.
yeah, I would agree.
I'm being told we have to watch it. Okay, 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 okay. I'll check it out, and perhaps maybe next week it might be my book report. Maybe,
You'll
maybe,
you'll you'll have to let me know because
maybe,
maybe we'll watch it together.
maybe. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how the week what the week takes us. Because maybe I've been curious about it. I did a rewatch of both of those movies recently, and I love them. They're so much fun.
I like the standard versions.
Yeah, but sorry, back to the Game of the Year awards. We were talking about the Game of the Year awards. There were some interesting trailers. You sent me one that was interesting, which was that Jurassic Park. Uh,
Yeah, that one looks interesting to me. It's piqued
yeah,
my interest for sure.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I'm not super into like you're unarmed running away from stuff in first person, so I don't know.
but I love Jurassic Park, so that's where it's interesting enough to me that if it gets to be a reasonable price or if it gets added to PlayStation Plus,
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
because if it's one of those games where it's like I can't kill the thing that's chasing me and I gotta run away from it the whole time, and it's just I don't know how interested I am in that. They never really does it for me.
I I need to see more gameplay.
Yeah,
That's my thing. Like,
true.
it's a teaser trailer. It's teased me.
Like maybe if it's a
I'm
thing of
teased.
like I can like it's in first person and I can like travel around the island in like vehicles and stuff, that'd be kind of fun. But if it's like an on the rails thing, like an alien isolation, I'm like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
need to see gameplay. That's
Yeah.
my summation right now. I need more gameplay.
Yeah, same. The other one that interested me, I mean Sega. Sega came out and they were like, Sega's back, baby. The Jet Set Radio, um, a bunch of different Sega games. But one of the ones that interested me, I sent to you, which we didn't really talk about much, was
The one where
uh,
you're the deaf girl, right?
Harmonium. I think is what it was called.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that was it, or Harmonious or something. You're deaf
Harmonious.
girl.
Yeah. It's Netflix games. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know. I've played video games on Netflix before. I know that like they have controller-based games, but is that what that is? Is it like basically one of those choose-your-own-adventure style things? Like, what is it exactly?
I mean, it looks like a movie, so I could believe that. It's very cute looking.
Yeah, it looks like fun. I mean, it looks like a Disney movie. It looks cute,
Yeah, or Pixar or
or
whatever.
Pixar or whatever. Yeah.
It definitely and I like how there's representation for deaf and like deaf people who are signing. It's nice to see inclusion in video games.
Yeah, absolutely. It's inclusion that, although I saw there's a bunch of people who are being stupid about it, being like, deaf people can't listen to music. How is this inclusive? And then people had to be like, well, no, they feel the vibrations of yes, they
Yeah,
do listen to music. Like, what a
they
weird,
absolutely
dumb
can.
thing to say.
People are dumb.
Yeah, but no, I like the idea of. I mean, to be fair, I've always said everything is better when it's a musical. I tried to make a video about this game because I wanted to talk about it, and I just couldn't find a good angle to come at it. But now that I'm thinking about it in this moment right here with you, I think kind of like maybe a Life is Strange style point and click game that's also a musical. I think would be fun. Cause like I don't
Yeah, that
have
could
you seen
work. I could see it.
have you seen I don't know why you would have other than the fact that the music is good, but have you seen that clip of Alan Wake 2, the musical?
No, I don't
I'm
think so.
gonna have to share it with you later because it's really good. It's really good. It's like I'm watching this and I'm like I don't understand the context of this. I really would like to know the context of this. It's the only reason why I even remotely want to play Alan Wake 2 because I'm like I need to know what the deal is with this. And then I looked it up and it was not googling it didn't help.
No, no information.
Speaking of Pixar, and I think this might unless there's any big news item that you've brought to the table. I got one more, and then I think we'll move on to book reports.
I
Because I think book
don't
reports are going
think
to be long
so.
today, so I've got a bunch to talk about for mine, and I suspect you've got a lot to talk about for yours. So we'll do one last news item, and that's apparently. You remember how during the pandemic, Pixar or Disney was trying to kill Pixar?
Yeah,
Well, apparently all those movies that didn't go to theaters are now going to theaters next year. They're all getting a
I
breakthrough
heard
window.
about. I heard about that.
I'm like,
Yeah.
they're
Like,
trying to unkill
really?
Pixar now, huh?
I thought that was
Can
interesting.
we?
I mean, I
Sorry.
don't really. I've seen those movies.
Yeah.
I don't really think they're that great. Maybe Soul. I like Soul.
So they're okay. They would have done better had
They're
they gone to theaters, though. They would have been more present in the in the pop culture. I think maybe they're cute.
Maybe.
They're nice small. They have the energy of a nice small budgeted movie. But they went to streaming, so they made no money. And I think it's like, okay, by releasing these in the theaters, is that Disney finally willing to admit that when you stick a movie on streaming, you're killing it? Like, is that, are we, can we say that now? Because every time I say that sending a movie to streaming is a death sentence for a movie, everyone treats me like I'm the monster. Like I'm saying the thing that's wrong, but it is. It kills movies. You want to kill? You know what's killing the movie industry? Sending your movies to streaming. Like day and date streaming. Nobody really appreciates that day and date streaming nearly killed the movie industry.
I mean, to be fair, I would argue that streaming in general is kind of killing the movie industry because
Hmm.
I mean, whether people put them like day one onto the streaming or not, the mindset now with the general population is always going to be, well, why should I go and sit in a theater with a bunch of other people being loud, being obnoxious, especially kids movies, like loud children being obnoxious when I could wait 30 days and it'll be on streaming.
I mean, that's why we didn't go and watch the Marvels. Like, it's not out
Yeah.
of any sense of maliciousness. It's not that I don't think the Marvels is a good movie. It's just like, is it worth putting on pants when in like 3 weeks it's just gonna be on Disney Plus anyway?
Well, not just that, but especially for like example, like when we went and watched Mario or when like any kids movie, I would love to watch certain things on the big screen. I like watching things on the big screen. For me, that's never not going to be a fun time. But as a 30, soon to be 32-year-old adult, nothing ruins a movie quicker than having a screaming child who won't shut up.
I mean, we're lucky
And and
because
so and so we are lucky. A lot of times our theater's smaller, so there's not
yeah,
always a lot of
yeah.
people there. But nothing ruins a movie quicker than having a screaming child.
I mean, we've
So
also
it for
learned.
me, as I've gotten older, it's become more and more. I'm gonna wait the however long it's gonna take for it to be at home, and I'll watch it at home where it's quiet.
Yeah, unless it's something I really want to see or I really want to support it. Like with Mario,
Yeah,
I really wanted to support. I mean, it ended up it didn't need our support, but I really wanted to support that one because I want video game movies to be good and I want them to be
yeah,
successful, and I want
yeah,
the effort to be put into them. Um,
yeah.
and it's the
I
same thing
agree.
with the Marvels. It was like, yeah, is this movie gonna be worth the money? And I didn't love. I took a lot of shit for not loving the first one, and I love Miss Marvel, and I love Amani. I can't pronounce her last name, and I'm not gonna try. But I
Kamal
love the
Khan.
yeah, I love the actress who plays her. She is a breath
She's
of fresh
she's
air.
good.
She's what the MCU needs, and she needs to have a more of an active role in the direction of it. I think
You can tell
maybe
she's a fan. I
yeah.
said you can tell she's a fan,
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by
and
the chat.
you can tell she's a fan, and she brings an excitement and a passion that I don't necessarily think. For example, um, Brie Larson,
Yeah,
Captain Marvel. To me, I don't mind the Captain Marvel movie. With the power of hindsight and watching it now, it's fine.
it's
It's okay. It's
fine.
nothing stellar. I don't personally think she brings a passion for the MCU. I
No,
don't think to her it just comes across like it's a paycheck. Um, which is fine. That's not a bad thing.
exactly.
But the actress who plays Kamala Khan, definitely brings a young, youthful. I'm a fan of this medium. I'm a fan of these comics, and is definitely bringing more, in
For
my
sure. I
opinion.
mean, she gets to write. She's right now. She's writing. I think she's currently writing the whole run, but she wrote part of a run for the new Miss Marvel, and no one deserves it more than that. And I really really
The
hope
com
that yeah, the comic.
the
Yeah,
comics, you mean?
she's
Yeah,
currently
yeah.
writing a run, or she wrote part of the run for current run for the comics. Um, and yeah, she deserves it. And I think more like her. I think Kevin Feige maybe is I think his time is kind of past. I think maybe he should consider passing it on to someone new. And I think maybe I don't want to say he's the problem with modern MCU. I do think he's part of the problem. And I think maybe if we put Yeah. Anyway, if you put the actress, like an actress, the actress who plays Miss Marvel, you put someone like that who has that passion for this, someone young, someone who's new. Maybe we might see a creative vision. But I'm of the opinion that Secret Wars should be it. That's it.
I mean, certainly what I think they should do for the MCU, what I believe um, going forward, and it feels like they're maybe trying to set this up as an like as what the future. But if, for example, uh, um, it's like a pyramid where essentially whoever is at the top then has the people that are in charge of the different areas of the MCU. So you have the people who person who's in charge of like the Earth, the space, the whatever, right? And they all report to the person at the top, so it's following one head. But then as it goes down, you have the people that you spread it out. You don't just have it all one person who's trying to do it all of the time.
Yeah.
Let him diversify and go down and have more people and spread out, but like all under one vision. But like if you know what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree. Although that having been said, having it be too split up, what ends up happening is you wind up with this situation like an Agents of Shield, or where it loses that consistency because you got the TV guys and you got the movie guys, and they're not really. And I think that maybe is what was the problem with some of those Disney Plus shows, is there was too much of a focus on. I mean, more content, more content, more content, and that was the problem. But also, they wanted it to they want all of this stuff to be individually approachable, and it's not anymore. And they're
No,
running
it's
into the
not.
same problem of the comic books have, where it's like, where do you jump in? And it's like, I think movies and television, yeah, how you can't necessarily do that. And when Marvel was succeeding, everyone pretends that Marvel was always concerned with setting up the next thing, and it wasn't. It was concerned with making a solid, good movie, and then it tagged a thing that set up the next thing at the end.
I would agree with that. Um, but what I was like, when I say an individual, like, so you have your directors who report to like, so the street level ones report to the guy to the Earth based leader, and then that leader reports to Kevin Feige. That way, there's just a chain of command. Is kind of what I was saying.
Yeah, but then what ends up happening is I mean, that's not a bad idea, but what ends up happening is you restrict your creatives from doing anything creative, and then that's where you get it's the Marvel machine, complaint.
I mean, if a machine puts out a quality thing that makes sense, I'm not inherently against it.
I mean, that's fair, but one could argue that it becomes an assembly line kind of product. And hey, if you're cool with assembly line products, I don't fault anyone for liking assembly line products. That's fine.
Depends on the product.
Depends on the product. And like I don't know. I'm a nerd. I still love the multiverse stuff. I'm not bored with it yet. But I definitely
No,
do think that Secret Wars, that's it. That's the end. To be fair, I
I
think
think it could
that
be for sure.
I think that Endgame should have been the end. I said that at the time, and I stand by it. That should be the end, and then we stop doing the interconnected thing, and then it's just individual movies. Like, I'm not saying stop doing movies. I'm saying stop doing them that they all build up to an Avengers. Like, that's the last they all build up to an Avengers. Just do individual
Or
movies after that.
if you wanted to have it be where it continues to build up to an Avengers, you use whatever it is, Secret War, Endgame, whatever, to essentially reset the universe.
No, I don't think they should do that. That's what they're gonna do. I don't think they should. That's a bad move. I stand by that. That's a bad move. You're killing all the momentum that you still have. Doing a whole hard reset. No, don't do a hard reset. Just stop doing Avengers movies. Just do individual movies that are like, do a Spider-Man movie here, a Miss Marvel movie there. Imply that they're still in the same universe, but don't worry about connecting them anymore.
Well, I mean, yeah. What I will say is I think they're at the point where they can do that, and then they
Yeah.
can just have. They don't need to set up for an Avengers movie. You can just have one.
Yeah.
They exist. They exist in the same world. We know they exist in the same world. You don't need to keep doing this thing where you have a stinger at the end of every movie going like, oh, well, this is the breadcrumb that's leading to
Yeah.
the Avengers movie.
We
No,
don't need
we don't need
breadcrumbs
to
anymore.
do we don't need to do that anymore. We've already sussed out the universe. The universe exists. You can just have a next movie where they all are together if you want.
Exactly. So, with that, let us move on. Well, okay, let's move on to the book reports. But before we get to the book reports, because I want to get in the habit of doing this, we are going to talk about. Well, we're not sponsored. We're not sponsored yet. Hey, if you want to sponsor us and you want to pay us, we will sell your product. Jordan, sell a product real quick before we do this.
Have you ever wanted X product?
That's enough. That's
Here
enough.
it
That's
is.
enough. That's enough. Don't give him too much. Don't give away the goods. You could have that. He could do that for you. I can make him do it just like that. Jordan, start again.
I will dance like a monkey for
That's enough. That's
you.
enough. It's no.
That
That's too much. It's too much. You've done too much. That's a sneak preview. That could be selling your products for you. In the meantime, I would like to say that this podcast is brought to you by the Arate Podcast Network. You can go right now to aratemedia.org, and you can experience all kinds of podcasts, shows, YouTube shows, blogs, not just these faces, not just these guys, but there's one about Broadway musicals. There's one about wrestling. There's a podcast for your pretty much your every need. You can listen to it. Also, if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, they're great help. Go again. That's aretemedia.org, ARETE media.org. Go check it out. Okay, moving on. Jordan, it's time. It's time for your book report.
time.
I know you've been anxiously waiting all week to talk about this. You've been sitting on
I've
on pins and
I've
needles waiting to tell me about your report. So what is your report for this week?
Okay, so I've got a few things to talk about before I jump into the bigger one, which will take a little bit longer. I did want to quickly talk about a new video game that I played. It's not a very long one. It only took me like 2.5 hours to blast through, but
Really?
it's this fun little yeah. Um, it's this fun little game called Superliminal. Superliminal, I believe it's called Superliminal.
Oh, I saw that. I
Um,
saw that. Okay.
and so. Uh, Essentially, it's a game where perspective is the name of the game, where uh, the puzzles and the things that you kind of have to solve are all based on perspective type puzzles. So, and I don't want to give it all away because you guys might want to go and enjoy it for yourself.
I mean, yeah, I might want to
But
check it out.
it's free. It's free on PlayStation Plus. So if you have PlayStation Plus, you can play it for free. But one of the puzzles, for example, is on the ground and the wall and stuff. There's a picture of like a chess piece, and you have to line your camera up, like move your character and line your camera up, so the picture of the chess piece will show up, and then it pops into reality, and you use it to solve whichever puzzle it is that I'm describing right now. And as you go through the game, it changes. The idea is of the game is um, you basically your perception is reality.
Hmm.
So there's various puzzles that are based upon that principle, and it's a fun little one. Which it the perspective gets weird, is
Interesting.
what I'll say,
I mean, if you're knocking it out in 2 hours, the puzzles can't be that hard.
or I'm just very smart.
Or you're just very smart.
I didn't find it to be there was okay. Here's what I'll say. There were a few puzzles which I was impatient and frustrated, and wasn't going to sit there for 12 days figuring out one puzzle.
Fair enough.
So I just kind of did what I had to do.
To
But
finish it. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
but I didn't find most of the puzzles. 90% of the puzzles I found very doable.
Interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
but
It's not a very long story,
I
obviously. If it's only 2 hours.
no, not really. It's one of those subtle kind of sort of kind of like a loose connection. I don't really know what else to compare it to.
Hmm.
Kind of like a Stanley Parable type thing
Oh,
where
okay.
it's
Okay.
not so much the gameplay itself that makes the game. It's like the listening to stuff and the
Right.
the stuff in the background kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it, and again, if you have PlayStation Plus, you can play it for free. So there's no reason not to download it and check
Yeah.
it out.
I might check that out. I might. That sounds interesting. And so you said you had another one?
Um,
You had another thing?
oh, I have another thing to talk about. So I'm sure you have heard of a little movie series slash television series called RoboCop.
I've seen the
Now,
first RoboCop. I have a memory of watching. I know I've seen the second one, and I have a memory of watching the third one, but I do not remember a thing about it. Same with the TV show. I have a memory of watching it, but I don't remember a thing about it.
so we're gonna do because I'm gonna do like a quick little summary of each of the like the movie
For
stories.
for those of you
I'm
who haven't seen
gonna
RoboCop.
Yeah. Also just because it's going to help me feed into a point that I have to make,
Sure.
question slash point. So diving into the first one, starts off, we have Alex Murphy.
Murphy.
Words are hard. Who, he goes up and he does his whole crime, or his solving crimes thing in a dystopian Detroit city, which is very dystopian, like to the point of like, in the modern day, like comical kind of dystopian.
I saw
Um,
I saw a theory about that he's brought into Detroit intentionally, basically, because they know he's gonna fail and get killed, so they can turn him into a RoboCop because they want a good cop to be RoboCop.
I could believe that because OCP is absolutely sinister in the movies. Keyword in the movies. Um, and so Alex goes off to blah blah blah, gets himself killed, and it's a gratuitous scene where they use like the guns and the shotguns to like blow off his head. The blood spurts
Hell
like where
yeah,
I say it's like comically, graphically, like over the top
that's
to
what
the point
RoboCop is,
where,
baby.
and this feeds into my question: do you think does it being graphic like that make it better?
um,
Is it necessary? Do you think it strengthens the movie and RoboCop as a character?
yes, ultimately yes, because it in the first one it highlights just how, yeah, how, as you put it, how dystopian and how despair how just full of despair that world is. And yeah, it also just gives it a um because the I just realized I should be doing this. Because the violence is, they use squibs and it's much more real, it's much more tactile, and it makes the movie stand the test of time because it doesn't it makes it look timeless because of how well the effects are done. So yes, I think in terms of the first one, it's important to the mood and tone and like themes of that movie. I cannot argue for the rest of it though.
Now, see, I hear what you're saying, but to me, okay, to me, watching it with my 2023 sensibilities and watching stuff and all that, you accomplish the same thing because the only reason why it gets an R rating is because of the blood and maybe some of the other stuff that happens in it that I don't really think. I think okay. You remember the movie Judge Dredd?
Yes.
I think that accomplishes the same thing, and that gets a lower rating.
Wait, which Judge Dredd are you talking about?
The modern one, the
That
one where it's
that
the
that movie's also R rated.
is that one
Oh
R
yeah,
rated?
it's hyper violent. Yeah.
But it's not in the same way this
Oh,
is.
it absolutely is. There's so many shots of people's like face getting torn apart and like in like slow motion. No, that movie's very violent.
I didn't know that one was rated R.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Not the point. To me, anyway, we'll finish. I'm gonna get to the summation of that point as I get to the third one,
yeah,
when the tone changes. Um, but so anyways, we get through this one. The rest of the movie happens. They defeat the bad guys. Um, very violent to me, over the top violent, not necessary violence. Um, and Murphy saves the day. Bad guys are defeated, etc., etc. We move on to the second one, and it is fine to me, kind of a rehash of the first one.
That's my memory of it. It's basically just the first one over again, but done
Um,
less good. It's less. It's worse.
Kind of. I don't know. I To me that's debatable. I think it's kind of the same quality as the first one. It's not that good. It's not that bad. It's fine. Um, That being said, there's a scene in it where RoboCop goes again to stop. This time it's terrorists or cultists or whatever, and they and this leads into an issue I have with RoboCop as a character. He's kind of weak, even
Yeah,
though sometimes his armor isn't vulnerable and bullets don't do anything against it, but other times he seems really really weak against them, and they do a lot against his armor, depending on the scene and how much they need RoboCop to be invincible.
pretty much. Yeah.
Um, and it just is really noticeable and kind of dumb, uh but and arbitrary. That's the word I would use, not dumb, arbitrary. But in RoboCop 2, so there's a scene where he goes against these cultists and they basically fuck him up. He they chop shop him. They have scenes where he's like unconscious and stuff, and they're cutting off his legs, they're cutting into his body. It is, I would argue, more violent than the first one where he dies.
Hmm.
Like to me, it is more, it's worse than the first in that sense
Yeah.
of gratuitous and over the top and unnecessary. Like he is screaming in pain,
Yeah.
absolutely being tortured, and then they dump his body on the steps of the police, like the police station, and they have him and his arms and legs are all off, and it's just his upper, like his head and his torso
He got
hanging from a hook in the police station
he, he,
with him like
he got real C3PO'd.
yeah, yeah, and it's absolutely horrifying, absolutely upsetting. I understand why the movie is rated like as high as it is. I just don't think it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I'll that this will make sense as we go on, because I argue that RoboCop is the most confusedly marketed character that I know of,
I mean, he's up there.
because like his first two movies are like Terminator level, like they're not. It's not a family movie, but it feels like it should be, but it's not, but it could be. But it wasn't. But then it's marketed to be for teenagers and kids because the show was marketed for teenagers. Like that's what it was created for,
Yeah.
was teenagers and kids.
There's also an animated series for RoboCop as well.
That
That's for kids.
Yeah. So it is the most confusing thing in the world, where it's like clearly at some point they were like, "Wait, why did we make this so violent when we could make it slightly less violent, show slightly less, accomplish the same thing, and try and sell it to children and make
I,
way more money?"
I mean, that's pretty much
And
it.
and and I know exactly why that happened and what made that happen. So we move it. So
Is it toys?
in the second one, um, the cultist gets turned into a robot so that they can sell, toys of that, or sell merchandise for that or whatever. And it's weird. His face is weird and 3D and CG, and I don't know why they didn't just record the person and
Right?
like
That's what
have
I
him
said.
be on the screen. But no, they have like a weird, like he doesn't talk, or but kind of thing, and it's like weird, and I don't get the choice. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
But RoboCop beats him, and happy day, movie's over. And then we move on to the third one, where now RoboCop is played by a different actor,
Yep. Did well. He
and
did not come
which
back
is
for the third one.
fine. That doesn't inherently bother me because he still talks like this and is robotic and like still feels like RoboCop. And
Yeah.
like same with the show, where he still talks like this and like is devoid of human, and most of the time you really only Batman him anyway.
Yeah.
So having him be someone different doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Um, so it doesn't really bother me. And he's in RoboCop 3. It's definitely softer. There's way less like graphic over the top shit.
That's
It's more of
because
like a
yeah.
PG-13, like, or young, like older kids, younger teenagers are fine to watch it kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, I wouldn't say like a family movie by any means, but like a Terminator kind of thing, where it's like, it's, to me, that's Terminator 1, I think, was R, but it didn't really need to be per se, other
Yeah.
than the sex scene. That's why that's R.
I think I
Um,
think the second one's also R-rated as well. Pretty sure.
is it?
Yeah, pretty sure it is as well. Yeah.
But it doesn't really. You know what I mean? It's one of those weird ones where it's like I could see why it would be, but it doesn't really feel like it needs to
It's
be
funny you said
by
Terminator.
today's
Yeah.
sensibilities.
It's funny
Um,
you said Terminator because Terminator had a similar trajectory where everyone thought it was a kid franchise for kids because the second one has a kid in it, but it's not.
no, but it could be, but it's not,
But
but
it's
it
not.
could be. But by today's standards, it could be
Yeah,
because every like violence today is so desensitized.
exactly.
Um, and so RoboCop 3, as I like to call it, the forgettable one because I don't really remember it as well, and I just watched it.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff happens. It's PG-13. It's not nearly as over the top, and that kind of is where I was like, did the other two really need to be? Would it have been stronger if it was always tonally like this?
No,
I don't know if it needed to be R.
it
I
absolutely
don't
would not
know
have.
if it
It would not have had the
like
same impact. There's no world where it starts off as a franchise for children, and then the reason why it's had the longevity it's had is because it is a hard R. It's got a point to make. To be fair, that first movie is deeply satirical. I kind of separate it from the rest of them, but it's a deeply satirical piece about corporate cynicism, and it's got a thing to say. Um, so no, it would not have worked if it wasn't violent. It just wouldn't have.
so. So now,
Also,
see, it's funny.
you notice there hasn't been a RoboCop movie since then because every time they try to make one of these, they try to make it PG and it doesn't work.
So it's funny that you say you wouldn't connect the first one to the other two movies because you know what else wouldn't connect to the other two movies? Perfect segue. The RoboCop TV series, which okay, so uh, clearly RoboCop being R was important to the fans as well because RoboCop 3 was universally panned. It
Yup.
did not do well.
Nobody
It
liked
had
that movie.
it was not, and so uh, the company Orion, which was making the RoboCop movies, was going bankrupt. They were going to make a fourth RoboCop movie,
hmm
but they instead opted to do a joint television show with a Canadian broadcast
Yeah,
uh,
which is why I've seen
in
it.
in in Toronto. It was filmed in Toronto and like Ontario in
It
general,
used to air
and
on
um,
much more music.
and it had a budget. So each episode of that show cost somewhere. It was in the range of between 1.3 million and
Wow,
1.5 million
that's
per episode,
that's a lot for back then. That's not a lot now, but
which
that's a lot back then.
which yeah, considering it came out in 94,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
that's
That's
a
a lot
lot.
of money per episode.
Yeah, I think
Um
that's Friends money. That's how much they were paying Friends at that point. I think I'm pretty sure.
and so another interesting fact is the pilot episode, and I haven't watched all of it. I've only watched the first 3 episodes. So I'm really just going to go into the pilot episode with a few interesting tidbits, and then I'm going to wrap up here. But an interesting to note with the pilot episode is it is actually a repurposed RoboCop 2 script.
RoboCop 2 script.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I thought it was they took the RoboCop 4 script and they kind of scrapped it for
No,
parts.
apparently, from what I've read, my research, it was originally it was going to be called RoboCop 2 Corporate Wars.
Huh.
And they repurposed it and reused it and like homaged it or whatever in this pilot episode, which is 2 hours long.
Hmm.
So if you wanted a RoboCop 4 that's not as good, looks like it has a TV movie budget, and
Make
has none of the characters from the movie except for Alex Murphy, uh, go watch the pilot episode of RoboCop the series because it is essentially another movie.
I remember that series. I remember I used to watch it on TV. It wasn't yeah, I don't remember much about it,
Um,
but I remember it.
And what's funny about it? So it very much in that pilot episode, it kind of has to set up a status quo, if you will. Um,
Oh yeah, cuz it's
and
a TV
so
show.
they've got yeah. So they've got their version of his partner, who is not the same character, has a different name, but is definitely that the TV version of that character.
That's funny.
Because again, this movie replaces the other two movies, and
Mm-hmm.
so in the second movie, I believe it was, his partner dies, which is why it can't be connected to that because
Oh.
this version is essentially supposed to be
Wait, so he has a different partner in the third
continuing
one?
that. I believe so, or it was in the third one that she died.
I know that there's
It
one
might
of
be, it
them.
might have been in the third. No, it isn't the third one. I believe that she
I was gonna
died.
say because I know there's one of them she didn't want to come back, so yeah, they killed her off. And
Yeah,
like
I think
that's
that's
the
the third one.
one. There's a point where they like in the second one, and in the remake, the reboot, which I'm surprised you also didn't watch. But in the reboot, they have a
Hey
storyline.
man, I only had so much time when I
Yeah.
decided that this was
Uh,
what I was gonna do.
but there's they cut out a subplot where Alex Murphy's like remembering his humanity or whatever.
So
Um.
it's funny. That is a very much a thing in this TV show.
Oh, I thought that they cut it for the TV show.
Nope, nope.
Oh,
In
okay.
this TV show, he keeps having and the wife is a character and his son is a character.
Oh, interesting.
Um, and
Shows how much I
so
remember about the show.
in the last episode that I was, or one of the episodes that I watched, um, oh, and the big difference between the show and the movie is in OC or in the show, OCP is a lot less malicious and evil, and more bumbling and stupid. Um,
Ah,
so it's very much more that they there are like basically villains of the week who are using OCP or manipulating OCP. So like there's this one character who is a scientist who is like he's feeding them bad ideas basically. And he in the pilot episode he gets locked in prison and he's got minions within the company that he's using.
hmm.
And RoboCop obviously uses much less lethal ways of
Yeah,
dealing with his people. I
yeah.
can't hear you. I think. Oh, there we go. Um, uh, he's got much less lethal ways of dealing with his people, so they can come back every week for the next episode.
Yeah.
Um, and so an interesting thing to note, though. So, and this was before we came on screen. I was like, I have to see if this actor is who I think he is.
Mhm.
Um, So you remember in the movie, there's I think he's the chief or something. He's always at the desk. He's the African American cop.
It's
Um,
been a while, but kind of.
uh, yeah. Anyways, in the show they have their version of him, who's again a different character, different name, and he's played by the actor who you remember. And this is a deep cut for those Disney fans. You know Halloween 2, Calabar's Revenge.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
You know
him. Yeah,
the
yeah.
oh
I
my.
know exactly who you're
Oh
talking about.
no, no, no. This is such a mess. He's Gort the troll.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's that same guy. So as soon as I saw him on the show, I was like, oh my god, I recognize him. Why do I recognize him? And it was driving me crazy. And so I just I looked it up before stream, and I was like, oh my god, it is him.
That's funny.
Um, and so I personally I don't mind that like the show and the third movie. I don't mind that they're not gratuitous. I don't think that RoboCop really. I don't think he needs to be gratuitous. I don't.
Oh,
I think you get it.
this is one of those times
Uh,
where unfortunately you're very wrong.
I think you can get the point across like there. You can have violence, like you can have him shooting people, gunning people down, and you don't need to have like blowing the hands off or cutting him into. I mean, in the second one, the cutting him into pieces for what they were going for and what they were trying to accomplish with that character, that needed to happen.
Mhm.
That second movie, that script needed to be R.
Mhm.
But it like knowing that this pilot was a potential second one,
Mhm.
it kind of shows that right from the second one, they kind of realized that they didn't necessarily need to going forward be that gratuitous.
I
They
mean,
needed to set it up with the first one but I don't know that they needed to continue with that.
I mean, this is one of those times where it, the reason why it became bloodless is because they wanted to sell toys to children. Um, but no, the clearly the the universe doesn't, or the movies themselves don't work when it's bloodless, because if they did, we'd be on RoboCop 8 by now. The movies didn't work when they were bloodless because it took everything that made those movies interesting and all the point of them, and it stripped them away to just kind of being a generic robot cop show, and that's why it wasn't successful. And then they tried to do a similar thing with that remake where they like sanitized it to the point of it almost being unrecognizable, and nobody watched it. So it's one of those things where RoboCop is the first one is one of those movies where, yeah, it needs to be violent, it needs to be gross, it needs to be gritty. It's very much a movie from the 80s. Now, were you to make it today, does it need to be? I don't think so. I like the RoboCop remake, but as far as that original movie is concerned, yeah. And second RoboCop to me doesn't work because it's just trying to be first RoboCop without any of the things that, like, any of the shock or any of the things that made like interesting at the time. It's missing all of that. It's like it's RoboCop 1, but it's not as good. At least that's my opinion.
To be fair, and this is kind of going to be me wrapping up here, that kind of sums up my opinion with a lot of like remakes, if you will, is a lot of the times, I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of the times it kind of just ends up feeling like, wow, this is just the original, but not as good,
But
or
it
the
sucks.
original, but with girls, or the original, but with whatever. Like it, and sometimes they do a fresh take and a fresh reimagining of a version, but
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it can be very hit or miss.
Wow, man, that segues beautifully into my report, which is what I thought you were gonna pick, if I'm being honest. Let's just go ahead and put that up. There we go. Um, I am going to be picking Indiana Jones. We're gonna be talking about Indiana Jones.
Ah,
We're
that
gonna
that was a consideration for me. I
we're
did think
gonna
of that one.
we're gonna talk about the new one. I'd like to tell you about the new one, but I watched all of them in preparation for this because I wanted to be prepared. And I wanted to start off with this, with what you said a long time ago about the Indiana Jones movies, and it was a very astute observation. I'd like for you to tell them it now.
That it's just kind of okay.
No, okay, maybe you don't remember.
It's to be fair, it's been a while.
What you said was you found that all of the Indiana Jones movies were of relative quality to each other,
Oh, absolutely.
and
The fact
I
that people got so up in arms about the Shia LaBeouf one, I still don't get.
so
I will never understand that.
here's the thing. I will tag on to that. The first three movies, and hey, this is probably going to be a controversial statement. Maybe we're going to get canceled before we even begin, but they are all kind of the same movie. Exactly, they're all kind of exactly the same movie three times in a row. And then the fourth one, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, very much is an exercise, in my opinion, of a guy who did a thing 20 or 30 years ago, trying to do that thing again and not doing it successfully. Because you're right, they are kind of the same, all the same movie, but that fourth one is just there's just something off about it. And people are going to be like, "Oh, it's the CGI, it's the him swinging." But like the original ones, a lot of it is just him on a soundstage. Like, and if you want to be like the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, doesn't make any sense. There's a sequence in the first one where the girl's in a basket on top of a guy's head, and she gets put in a thing in a truck, I think, and then the truck explodes. And there's no period or point where she could escape. The window is so tiny, there's no way. And then she somehow turns up alive at the end. That's Marion, the girl, the love interest. So that's
Right.
just as unbelievable as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, in my opinion. It's just as unbelievable. And my thing, I discovered a lot of things that kind of annoy me about that series. One, every time they introduce a secondary character, they pretend as though we've seen that secondary character before. They do it a lot. It drove me crazy when they got to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and there's that the guy who betrays Indy to the Russians. Um,
Oh, I don't remember his name.
I can only remember the actual actor's name, Ray Winston. But
Okay.
they keep doing this thing. They do this thing where it's like it seems to indicate that he's been in a previous movie, but I just watched the first three movies and this is the first time we're ever meeting this character. And they do that a lot. The other thing that drives me crazy in that movie is they really telegraph the twist that he's Indiana Jones's son. Like they really telegraph it by having him be uncharacteristically nice to him and uncharacteristically supportive, so that when they reveal that it's his son, he can be like, "Yeah, you're going to school," and then his Shia LaBeouf can be like, "What happened to being supportive?" And it could be a bit like it's just there to facilitate that joke later on in the movie. It's not organic. And when I was watching that movie, I was like, "Do you think that if this character of Indiana Jones' son was literally anyone else, do you think maybe we would have had at least another movie with Indiana Jones' son?" And that's going to tie nicely into the new one, which I am going to talk about. But I wanted to talk about the original
um,
first.
I mean, I think that whoever did the role had kind of um, because it wasn't the point. You're gonna have to forgive me. It's been a while since I've seen any of them, and they were all of very forgettable quality, in my opinion. They're classics for a reason, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were stellar.
I mean, they're all kind of the
Uh,
same movie. No, you shut your mouth. The first one's amazing. The first one's the best one, hands down. It's actually a legitimately good movie.
I
It is.
mean,
It's an
okay.
amazing movie. That movie's really good. But
Uh,
they're all just kind of after that. They're all just kind of the first one over again. Is my
yeah,
opinion.
from what I remember I remember liking the first one, and then the rest just kind of yeah, just yeah. But and that was kind of my thing was I saw that. Sorry, I'm gonna go off on a side tangent here for a second. I saw the because I did think about doing the Dial of Destiny as my pick or as my board book report, but I saw it and it was after work, and I was just like, I just don't know that I have the will. I just don't know if I can do it.
um,
But because they're yeah, you know,
I mean,
they
the Steven Spielberg ones, I
but
compare them to a theme park, a theme park attraction. It's the equivalent of going on the ride at Disneyland. That's what that movie is.
Um, but to answer your question or my opinion of it anyway, um, had it been another actor, they still would have had the task of because they were trying to set it up as like he was the legacy of the character, right? Like
They were
if
absolutely.
it
I was gonna say they're absolutely not setting him up. Anyone who watched that movie and thought, oh, he's gonna be new Indiana Jones, that's not the point of that movie.
no, but my point not Shia LaBeouf, but I'm saying if they had I don't want to say a more charismatic person, but for lack of a better way of describing
Chiseled
it,
jaw, more like Harrison Ford is what you want to be like.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if they had someone like that, then I could have believed that this movie would have been setting that up. Because Harrison Ford is one of those actors who very much likes to not do a character ever again and have
Ah,
someone take over for
but
him.
but the thing with Indiana Jones is, nah, man. When it came to Indiana Jones, there is a point. There's a story from I want to say, oh, I think it was Chris Pratt. When there was a period where Chris Pratt was talking about maybe taking over as Indiana Jones. That's when they were talking about this new one. And apparently he ran into Harrison Ford, who like looked him right in the eye and went, "I'm Indiana Jones, and you will take it from my cold dead fucking hands," basically. Um,
That's very unlike
Yeah, that's why he came
Harrison
back for
Ford.
this last one, because he very much wanted to be like he wanted to go out on one last one that actually had a decent critical reception, which I don't know that this one did. And then, so that I guess that leads nicely to the new one, which I now will tell you about because you have not seen the new one.
Not
And
yet.
what I will say is about the new one is this: it's pretty good. Um, there's some nonsense in there that doesn't make a ton of sense. Um, I guess I kind of got to go through this beat by beat, don't I? Okay, so
Wibbly
um,
wobbly timey wimey.
no, not as much as you'd think. It's very
Oh,
much an
really?
Indiana Jones movie in the sense that it's about going to a place and getting a thing, and then going to another place and getting another thing. Um, it starts off with basically, yeah, there's the dial of destiny. They want the dial of destiny, and the idea is that it doesn't. It's not like a time travel device. It basically allows them to find time fault lines in the universe, basically, that allows them to go through a crack in time to another moment in time, basically. And it's not a like Indiana Jones teams up with young Indiana Jones and they do a punch. It's absolutely not that. Young Indiana Jones only really shows up in one sequence in the beginning, and it looks horrendous. Um,
I'm
it looks
kind of glad they didn't do that a lot then.
it looks okay when he doesn't move or speak, but the moment he starts to speak, you can see the cracks and the seams in it, and it looks bad. And it looks bad. Um, and yeah, so basically, the other big thing with this one is it really feels so. There's everyone got really mad because there's girl Indiana Jones now, right? And she's not. They want her to be girl Indiana Jones. At least the script.
So,
Okay, it's hard. It's hard to describe. So her role in this is basically she is the goddaughter of a colleague of Indiana Jones. And it does that thing where he comes in and it's pretending like I should know who this character is, but I don't. And so he's this goddaughter, and she shows up back in his life, and he's basically retired. He's done one last class, and he's retired. And she shows up back in his life and is looking for this dial of destiny or whatever. And it turns out that she's a huckster. Basically, she's anti Indiana Jones. She goes around and instead of giving shit to museums, she steals it and sells it. And he's all horrified because he's like, why would you do this? This is not what blah 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 blah. And then it obviously there's the bad guy and it's Indiana Jones. You know how this works. I don't need to tell the plot. You know where it's going. Um,
yeah.
but the thing is, it feels like at one point she was related. It's not that she's a girl because she's fun and she has some fun moments, and there's a really fun moment at the end where he becomes the damsel in distress and he's the one who needs to be rescued, but he still has enough. It's not like he needs to be the one who's rescued, but he's like helpless. Like a big criticism I saw float around about this was it was like, oh, it's 80-year-old Harrison Ford or whatever, how old he is now, doing stunts he has no business doing. And I don't think that's what this is. I don't know where anyone would get that impression. It like anytime he does believable things. So like there's a point where he's like running after a guy and he gets winded, or like he's doing stunts and he's like tied, like climbing up a wall and he's like he feels every ache and pain because he's old now. I would say it does
Yeah.
a better job of what they wanted to do with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, where it's like he's old now and he can't do this. Um, but the movie it never makes the point of she's taking over for him. It's very much it's the same. Okay, it makes me wonder if at a point because they very much kill off the son. I don't know if Mutt's dead. He's dead. He's not coming back. Um, and so it makes me wonder if at one point in the scripting process, the, there's a lot of like arc of a parent and a child not getting along, and the child, a parent being disappointed with the child's choices in life, and the child learning from the parent to be better or whatever. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of arc for what feels like a son or a daughter character. Like it's not that she's a girl; it's that she has no relation really. Yeah, she's his goddaughter, but
She's Ray. She's Ray Skywalker. She's not a
yeah,
Skywalker.
yeah. She's his goddaughter. It's not the same thing. A lot of the character beats in this don't work for me because they're not actually related. Like right down to she has her own short round and it's like it feels like at a point this was his son, whether it was Shia or daughter, like kid, whether it was Shia LaBeouf and he didn't want to come back, so they wrote him out, or it was another character. It just feels like they were more closely related, and it just as it is, it just doesn't work for me. Um, but also, it's not Steven Spielberg this time, so it's at least visually different. So I
Interesting.
like it overall. I enjoy it overall. I think it's kind of reductive to be like, is it better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? They're all it's a different movie than the first four, I would say, because it's done by a different director, and it feels that way. It reminds me in a lot of ways of Logan because it's like an older, grizzled character teaming up with a young woman. That's what it really reminds
Okay.
me of.
Interesting.
And
Interesting. My one thing about and I haven't seen the movie, so but then just conceptually, if they were setting up for this girl to take over for Indiana Jones, so she's Tomb Raider then. She's Lara Croft.
yeah, no, yeah, they're absolutely. I don't think. I mean, this very much has the feel of like she could go off and do her own thing, but they wouldn't call it Indiana Jones. They're not gonna do
No,
it. She's
no,
a
they would just call it hashtag uh, similar to but legally
just
distinct from Tomb Raider.
yeah, 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 yeah. And also again, she's very much not girl in well, I mean, I could see why one would say she is, but she's really not. And like I say, they're doing a lot of character stuff where it's like it's just this character. It feels like this is a sequel to a different movie. Like this feels like they wrote it as a sequel to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and then cut out all the connective tissue between those that movie. And so in the ultimately the time travel stuff. So it is very much like a regular Indiana Jones, where it's about finding the thing, and then at the end, they. Oh, sorry, real quick. This movie also does that thing where a character who has no right to be skeptical is skeptical. You know what I mean? Like in
Yeah, well,
Supernatural, where it's like, oh yeah, we hunt ghosts and witches and demons, but an alien, that's a bridge too far. It's one of those.
that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, so like this one's like
Everyone has a line.
so this one, it's like, yeah, he's seen aliens. He's seen a 700-year-old ghost kept alive by the by the Holy Grail. He's seen
The
Nazis get
Ark
their
of the Covenant.
right. He's seen the Nazis get their faces melted off by the light of God, and not even mentioning all the stuff that happened off screen that we've never seen. So like, really, time travel is where you're gonna draw the line here? Like, oh, I hate that. It's a big pet peeve of mine. Um, but so they ultimately they combine the thing, they get the thing, they get the MacGuffin, and it's a yeah they go through what is essentially like a portal in like a crack a portal in the sky in a plane, and the bad guy of the piece is basically like um he's done all the math basically to be like, oh, this hole is going to take me out to 1944 Germany or whatever, near 1944 Germany. Or Sicily. It's going to take me out near Sicily. I'm going to fly to Germany and I'm going to kill Hitler and I'm going to win World War II because Hitler did it wrong, basically. Um, and instead, he miscalculates and doesn't calculate for continental drift. So they wind up like back in Archimedes' time, who is the guy who um, invented it. And Indiana Jones wants to get left behind because he's like, oh, this is history. I get to live it. And she's basically like, no, you can't stay because A, you'll fuck everything up, and yeah, you can't die here. And she's like, and Archimedes has the completed version of the Black City, and he can't keep that. He needs to make his own. But yeah, overall, it's fun. I guess it's not any if anyone would claim, I didn't really pay much attention to this when it came up, but if anyone would claim that that it's better than or that's worse than Kingdom of the, it's not. It's not a bad movie. I would say it's worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I don't know. Yeah, I have maintained and I will continue to maintain that you're right. They are all of the same quality. I mean, again, the first three are more or less the same movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I, again, when I did my last rewatch and I watched them all up to the crystal, I think the Crystal Skull is just as good as the other three.
Yeah,
Like they're all
I
of the
do.
same quality. They're not bad. They're not great.
They're okay.
They're
They're
just
okay.
they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I do see the like I said earlier, of it. The fourth one is very much Steven Spielberg is like there's a lot of line reads and a lot of dialogue of characters talking where it's a character speaking, and it sounds like an Indiana Jones line, but it's just them. You know what I mean? Where it's like it feels like this is what it's supposed to
Yeah,
sound like, but it just doesn't sound
trying to
quite right.
trying to go through the motions.
Yeah, and just not really getting it. I was just saying, is there anything else I want to say about Indiana Jones? No, yeah, no, it's fine. It's a fine movie. It's totally worth checking out. If you haven't seen it yet, which I don't, I mean, I think I'm maybe probably one of the few, other than Jordan, one of the few people who haven't seen it yet. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So with
I'm gonna
that,
have
I
to check
think
that one out.
I think we're gonna wrap up book report, and with that, I think that's gonna do it for today's episode with a weird gap in the middle. I'm gonna combine both parts into one part. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, you heard it as one part. I might just leave it as two separate parts on YouTube. I don't know yet. Um, but that having been said, I'm your host. I'm Justin Spurr. You can find me on TikTok at Justin Spurr. Please follow me there. Jordan, where can people find you if they want to find you somewhere else?
I mean, at the moment, I stream on Mondays and do Minecraft Mondays on Zethgore187 on Twitch. Sometimes other days, sometimes not. Other than that, uh, I have a TikTok, but I don't really use it. And here, I'm here.
Yeah,
If you want to hear my
we will be here.
dulcet bones
We will
and my
hopefully.
dulcet tones,
So,
we'll be here next Saturday.
yeah, hopefully we will be here every Saturday talking about stuff. So with that, I'm going